Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is Friday, the 23rd of February 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of our show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the collaborative efforts that the SIFC is yielding in the form of the first joint venture that has been signed between the government of Pakistan and, of course, Miracle Salt Works Collective Incorporation, a US-based salt mining and processing company. They have been here for some time. They have been calling on the caretaker Prime Minister, Ahmad Sahab. They have been also visiting the areas where, of course, the company will be established and how they will be working together with the government of Pakistan. It's an interesting development. It's an important development for Pakistan and also bodes for the strong relations between in the economic field between the US and Pakistan. This said, it's also pertinent to see how all of this will move forward under the new government. What are the questions that the representatives of that company have in mind right now? Are they happy? Are they not? What do they look forward to as far as the government of Pakistan is concerned? That and more will be discussed in this first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the politics on economy and how a certain political party is moving all kinds of doors in order to somehow restrain Pakistan economically. This was said recently in an address by the leader of a political party in Pakistan, who said that a letter is going to be sent to the IMF so that they curtail their loans continuation to Pakistan. This is not the first time that a certain political party has gone with this agenda, and let's see how this all bodes forward. As far as the IMF is concerned, they seem very adamant on working with the new government whenever it takes form. This is going to be our second segment, putting economy in danger for petty political gains as well as the economic challenges that are in store for this new government. Then we are going to talk about the hearing at the ICJ. We all know that different countries are presenting their points of views as far as the Israel-Palestine conflict are concerned. Today, Pakistan also presented its point of view. Minister for Law and Justice Ahmad Irfan Aslam presented Pakistan's position at the ongoing advisory proceedings of the International Court of Justice in the case on legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. Then we'll be talking about India that has demanded Twitter or X to block certain accounts in the wake of what has been happening, especially with the farmers' strike that has been going on and the farmers threatening to enter New Delhi until and unless their demands are met with. So all these accounts that pertain to that have been asked by the Indian government to X to block them, although X says it has blocked them, but it will be only restricted to India only, and the rest of the world will be able to access these accounts. Then we'll be able to we will be talking finally about the United States that has achieved the first moon landing in 50 years. A spacecraft that has been built and flown by Texas-based company Intuitive Machines landed near the moon's south pole on Thursday, the first US touchdown on the lunar surface in more than half a century and the first ever achieved by the private sector. So without further ado, let's begin with our first story, and that concerns Pakistan's economic development, the different contacts that are happening as far as the government of Pakistan and other companies are concerned, and of course the role of the SIFC in all of this. We've been joined by the representatives of one such company that are in Pakistan and have signed a joint venture with the government of Pakistan. It is none other than Miracle Salt Works Collective Incorporation, which is a US-based salt mining and processing company. We have two guests with us from that same company. Let me introduce them to you one by one. I'll give a little bit of intro for you to understand who they are. On my very right is Ahmad Khan. He's the chairman and president of the said company. And he is, of course, chairman of the board of Miracle Salt Works Collective Incorporated. You have a master's in business administration from the US and has been working on infrastructure development projects for a very long time. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmad Khan, to have joined us. Our second guest is Robert Harrison. He's the chief executive officer of the same company, Miracle Salt Works Collective Incorporation. You have an extensive background in capital formation, manufacturing and distribution of both vertically integrated and licensed product, international agribusiness and branded consumer products. Welcome, Robert, to our show, and Ahmad as well.
Thank you.
I'll begin with Ahmad. Ahmad, both of you, along with other representatives of your organization, met with the caretaker Prime Minister Ahmad Sahab. And during this meeting, he said that new milestones were being achieved in the mining sector under the auspices of the Special Investment Facilitation Council. You have met with the representatives of the SIFC as well. You've seen the determination of the government as well. How do you see that determination of the government and the SIFC to strengthen Pakistan's economy? Are there any questions that you have in mind?
Thank you for inviting us. And I believe that SIFC is playing and is going to play a very important and major role in the future, because what I have seen, the motivation and the policies they are looking into to attract the foreign investor actually is the right direction to go, especially in mining sector and the agriculture sector, which is going to be actually in the future of Pakistan, agriculture and mining, to build the economy and become a developing nation in the future. So I believe as a Prime Minister and his efforts and SIFC efforts, both are very, very lucrative for foreign investor. For us, as our example, that really give us a lot of trust, to invest in Pakistan after their involvement, in the project.
All right. Robert, before I come to the normal questions, I'd like to understand what brought you to Pakistan, what interested you to Pakistan's pink salt and salt mining sector?
That's an interesting question, because probably the answer isn't obvious. I wanted to make a difference. The brands that I've grown have all been involved with making a difference to society. And I hadn't been to Pakistan before, but as Ahmad was saying, I can tell you that we were welcomed with open arms. But when I saw the plight of the people around the salt mines and that, it made me realize that we can really make a difference by building a brand of Himalayan pink salt on a global basis and giving back to the community. I've got grandkids. I want to make a difference.
All right. And you want them to be proud of their grandfather and of the family heritage as well. Ahmad, the Prime Minister has expressed the confidence that this signing of agreement between the government and your organization is not only going to surge the export of Pakistani salt, but will also strengthen ties between Pakistan and the US. He has also said that Pakistan has billions of dollars of reserves in the mining sector, and this joint venture reflects the prevailing conducive investment environment in Pakistan. How do you see these statements?
He is very right. If you see the relationship between United States and Pakistan, let's talk about United States, one of the biggest economy in the world, and every country want to work into their markets, because they are so lucrative. So definitely, when there is a relation develop in any product line or in any field of business between the countries, it is not only the business, it is developing the relation to people to people, and then people talk about it, and the other people, the other businessmen or the community listen it. When they listen to good stories, they want to visit, they want to come over. So that's how the things started. I am 100% sure. I'm sure about our project, that it will bring more investors into Pakistan when they will look at us, what we are doing in Pakistan. And I believe so that his statement is very much right, about it.
Speaking of direct investment, Robert, how important is foreign direct investment for a country like Pakistan, and how will joint ventures such as yours initiate that and bring that and push that in the right direction? Because of course you'll go back to the US, you'll talk to other colleagues and friends of yours, and the word of mouth is very important between the business community in the US, isn't it?
Correct. One of the things that I see is that we believe that Pakistani pink salt can be the marquee brand to drive the Pakistani recognition globally. I was saying to some people earlier on, there's 400 or 500 years worth of reserve of pink salt. If we can create the brand, I believe we can, and it goes to the world, it becomes a global brand, and it becomes the marquee for Pakistan. We will incorporate a brand that's got a flag on it, that's exclusively made, or the original recipe, or whatever it is, and people are going to ask us, how do you do that with the citizenry of Pakistan and the government? And I can say to them honestly, They've been cooperative. They've welcomed with open arms. They've done everything they can to allow us to be successful. The only people get in the way of that is us, and that's not going to happen.
All right, wonderful. Ahmad, you know, when you talked to the caretaker Prime Minister, you also apprised him that once the company is established in Pakistan, it will be listed with the major stock exchanges in the world, which will benefit the government of Pakistan and the local investors as well. When and how will Pakistan benefit from measures such as these? Could you explain a bit?
Definitely. When I talked with the Prime Minister, and the reason I said so, in the United States, you know, when you go to the New York stock market, you know, and you'd see the listing of the stock market, the companies who are listed there, you know, and you don't find any of Pakistani companies there, you know. Our neighboring country, you know, have a worth of $3 trillion, you know. Maya and Rob and so many another maybe 250 or 400 million or 300 million, sorry, Americans, maybe their hedge funds are invested in India, which we give the taxes, you know, and they are into their businesses. That is happening because of they are in their stock markets, you know. So it is kind of a binding effect, you know, between the countries, you know, economies, you know. It play a very important role. So what our business model was that once we are going to be totally mobilized, you know, this project, you know, and we are going to be in the global network of markets, you know, in the countries. Our next flagship is going to be, and commitment is that take the company and this JV to the New York stock market. That is going to be the reason that you are going to get not one, you are going to get 10 to 15 multiples, you know. And that is actually needed for other companies too, to take those efforts to go into global stock markets, you know. So I believe that the Prime Minister understood very nicely. He lived in the United States. He understands the business very well, and it was very well taken by him.
All right. What's your take on that, Robert? Once you are, of course, listed on the New York Stock Exchange, that will not only give this necessary impetus for Pakistan's economy and such joint ventures, but will also maybe bring in more companies, international and local, to be listed within the New York Stock Exchange and other stock exchanges in order to build the whole, you know, economic strength of Pakistan and Pakistani companies within the US. As Ahmed pointed out, you know, our neighborhood country has $3 trillion worth of worth within the stock exchange.
Yeah, I think one of the things the stock exchange does, one is that as a public company, it makes it easier to raise money for your business. Two, it allows your shareholders, no matter where they are, to participate in the success of your company. Our business model says we're going to sell the product in US dollars. So it brings currency into the country. So the brand, I believe, if you think about this, they spend 50 years finding a mine, and it runs out in 30 years. We've got 500 years worth of inventory, and we can do a lot with that brand, because that brand is on Miracle Pink Salt today. But if you do the brand right, it can be on other things. It's the Pakistani mirror. So I see it gives everyone a chance to participate, no matter how big or how small they are, in the Pakistani success. And they do that by having it on the stock markets where they live and breathe.
I think that's very important, and that will be a measure in the right direction, and I hope that happens sooner than later.
Yeah.
Ahmed, of course, because we all want, you know, Pakistan to be economically stable and strengthen itself in that domain. Ahmed, you've talked about socio-economic uplift of the local people, which will be around the site that will be constructed for the organization and the mines. You've said that you will be working towards that, also living in the areas near the salt mines, and also the provision of education, health and job opportunities to them. How do you plan to achieve that? Is it going to be a short-term measure, a long-term measure? What is the planning that you have in mind?
Definitely a long-term measures on that, you know, and we have a very very well thought plan, you know, how to take care of the social economical situation of the local people there. I have no shame to say that, you know, that I might going to walk away from this project, you know, if that that clause is not a part of this JV, where we said that we are going to give 5% equity of whatever we are gaining under this JV for thousands of years for the development of the social people. It is basically easy to say, but believe me, when you go to those areas, when you look those people living there, time is stopped there. You feel that the poverty, is for them, and it's never going away. And how come a group, of any company or any big group who is working now on a project there, they can ignore it? Because how come we are going to sleep well in back home, into our houses, and when we are taking billions of dollars of asset and material from their area and not developing them.
All right.
It is the first thing to be concentrated. That in our project, in our business model, that not only from the education level to the health to the training, creating a mining technical school there, give a priority to the women to get the jobs, train an HR, which is very technical, which will go not only work for us, they will work for another private sector in mining areas, in mining sector. And then if they go overseas, they will contribute into the they will get the technical jobs, they will be well paid, If they are well paid, they are also generating the revenue which they are sending foreign exchange to Pakistan.
I think that is very important.
So it is very, very important. I believe it is a nucleus of our project, basically. It's my motherland.
Your CSR.
This is my country, it's my motherland. My mother is buried here, and I love it. And I don't want to see, I'm not going to be alive in 10 years or 20 years,
there will be many others
but
like
I can tell you, the generation will carry on. They will carry on this good work, for thousands of years, because our reserves are sitting here for salt for thousands and thousands of years for a supply chain in the world. And this should be now mentioned again and again and again in a way. No, this is a Pakistani product. This is a product of Pakistan. Like go and see some other countries in Italy, and olive oil, from there is very good, coffee beans, for A, B, C, D countries.
So tomorrow what you want to say is that whenever we talk of pink salt, Pakistan should be mentioned as
yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because God have given us, and it is His decision.
True.
It is not our decision. He gave it to us, and we have to take a pride on that.
That I totally agree with you. Robert, I'd like to understand how long before the company installs itself here, because of course you've had the preliminary discussions, you've had the JV sign, and now that you leave for the US, how long should we look at? What is the window of operation as far as the beginning of your organization in Pakistan is concerned?
Well, we have to do a feasibility study first. One of the things that became obvious to me, because I've always dealt with ingredients that are commodities. So this is a commodity today. We have to create a value-added product. So the first thing we'll do is determine how much is there and what the quality is. Because if we're building an international brand, you have to have consistency of quality all the time. And what I found out is that with the pink salt, it's not all consistent. So we have to do some consumer research while we're doing the feasibility study. One will tell us how much we have of the salt. What we have to do is find out what the consumer wants. And as Ahmad said, we didn't say we're going to give 5%. We put it in the contract. And I think that's going to be the minimum. But I also think that is a huge opportunity to tell the world about this brand and what it's doing. It's going to be good for your stomach. It's going to be good for the plate. But if it's going to be good for the people that live in the area and they know that their purchase of it, it gives us an even more advantage. So 11 months to get the feasibility study done. Putting the plant in will probably take somewhere between 1.5 years and 2 years, because you can't launch into the marketplace unless you've got consistent quality in enough volume. So I would say, when would we see the difference? You'll start to see the brand change. They're going to make changes that will allow us, we have to have some time to build the brand, and we can't have other people selling pink salt from the same spot at a different price. We want to sell it at a reasonably premium price, love to be positioned over everybody else, because the way you build a brand is by
Exactly.
having value added. So I would say that you'd see it in other countries within the new package or the new design and the rest of these things. It probably isn't going to be much before 2.5 or 3 years.
All right, but the whole, you have started, the ball has started to roll basically in that respect.
And it's at the top of the hill and gaining speed.
Okay, wonderful. Ahmad, last question to you. How important will this venture also be to create employment opportunities for MBAs like yourself, also Pakistani expatriates who want to return to Pakistan and serve their motherland, as well as local talent, whether they be technical talent or of course administrative talent?
It's going to make a lot of difference. It's going to be a first step to a 1,000-mile journey. And I believe so that people are going to look into it. And they are wiser people than us. They are more better business. What you can say, minds, sitting around the world. They will come over and create the employment. I just want to say one thing here, that there are certain things we are talking about SIFC and also the PMDC, what the important role they have played, during this venture. But there is some people which I really want to mention, who also played a very, very important role sitting in the United States. That is your two embassies. One is your ambassador in Washington, D.C., Mr. Masood Khan. And then there is your consulate general in Chicago, Tariq Kareem. Because whenever we needed them, we went to Washington, D.C. with the delegates and the ambassadors sitting there. When we explained them, they went 10 steps ahead, to motivate us, to give us their commitments, to sureties, that you should go. You should go to Pakistan. We will take it. And they chase us, also, and give a push to come to Pakistan. They are playing a very, very important role for the investors, when they contact with them, and the embassy is playing a good role. And I really want to appreciate them, for what they did for us, and I'm pretty sure they are doing the same thing for the other investors who want to come to Pakistan.
I'm sure, and I think this is a step in the right direction, the way this JV has happened. Last question, because I couldn't help myself but ask you this last question. Robert, you said this is going to be an investment not just for 1 decade or 2 decades. This is an investment that is going on to go on, maybe if everything permits, for hundreds of years. So we are going to see a lot of new generations of Harrisons coming on board and, handling this venture and coming to Pakistan.
Absolutely. I'm excited to actually bring my children and my grandchildren. It wasn't on my bucket list before, but it is now. Like, it's been a wonderful experience, business-wise, but also so personally. And I really believe that this brand can create pride, because if we do it right, it'll be available in every market. I remember my kids going to Barbados on holidays with us, and I was in the ice cream business, and the product was there. Gets what they wanted to buy. I guess they wanted to tell everybody. We want to do the same thing. This is the marquee brand to be around the world. It not only will bring people back, but it'll give them pride where they are, that there they have one of their country's premier products.
Well, and whenever you come next time, Robert, you need to visit Pakistan. We've got wonderful places as a tourist you'll be enthralled to see, whether it be deserts or the mountains or the palaces as well. I hope Ahmad will be there as well to serve as guide to show you his country, his motherland.
Perfect.
Thank you so very much to the both of you, Ahmad and Khan, Chairman and President, as well as Robert Harrison, Chief Executive Officer of Miracle Saltworks Collective Incorporation, to have come to us, talk to us about your joint venture, and made us Pakistanis so happy that this is just one step in the right direction as far as economic stability in Pakistan is concerned. Thank you very much to both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We'll be back after a short break. Stay tuned. In our second segment, we are going to discuss about the political machinations of a certain political party. I can understand if you talk politics or you politicize your issues with other political parties within Pakistan. But when you take the whole country with you and try to undermine the efforts made by or try to put a certain stop to all the efforts that have been made by the caretaker government or the previous government, then a lot of question marks emanate as to what the actuality of your positioning vis-a-vis a political party in Pakistan is concerned. I think in this day and age we need to rise above petty politics, and we need to think of Pakistan first. We are all Pakistanis, that is what we need to do, and politics comes afterwards, but first is to create a stable environment in Pakistan where everybody can thrive irrespective of the political party. We've been joined by Usman Chohan, who's a leading economist, political economist, and we are going to discuss some of those that I just discussed with you. Let's begin with the IMF that states that it is looking forward to engaging with the new government on policies to ensure macroeconomic stability and prosperity for all of Pakistan's citizens. This is the quote by IMF. Then we have a statement by a senator from a political party known as PTI, Ali Zafar, who tells reporters that a letter will be sent from the founder of that party to the international leader, international lender rather that is the IMF, urging it to call for and of course trying to undermine the whole process, the whole negotiations between the IMF and Pakistan that have been going on since some time. Do you feel that this is an attempt, deliberate or otherwise, to jeopardize Pakistan's economy?
It's a very profound question, also a very sensitive one, and as you are above politics and so am I, we can look at it through multiple perspectives. On one hand, it is a call to the IMF that since they put free and fair, they're trying to ask the IMF to think twice, which is something the IMF is not interested in, and it has said so. At a deeper level, there's the question of the odious debt. This is a theory in law and in economics, where you say that if you are under a tyrannical regime, like for example Rhodesia was under white apartheid once upon a time, then the black revolutionaries who freed Zimbabwe were not supposed to pay for what the white government did. It was a theory, but you know what? Zimbabwe decided to pay for it. And this odious debt theory is something that I think probably the people writing the letter didn't think about. It's probably not something the IMF has ever agreed to, but it is a concept in law, and since these days we're seeing so many violations of international law and so many economic inequalities, one does tend to think that we have to take a step back and look at how the world economy is anyways. So there is, although this is a specific incident, we have to think about how the world economy works and what debts we should pay and shouldn't pay, and Pakistan's debt to GDP continues to rise. So there's always that question that, well, do we have to pay? Don't we have to pay? In a broader sense.
I can understand that, but statements like these build a narrative that does not bode well for the country. Anybody who is not Pakistani, who's sitting outside, will think twice before investing, saying, I don't understand why one person is saying this, one political party is saying this, the other is saying this. Also, Mr. Ali Zafar talks about good governance that was needed for working of the country, for giving a loan. Is he, in your point of view, trying to say that good governance cannot be delivered by this upcoming government, or has not been delivered by the caretaker government? And when you are in the process of forming a new government, doesn't this statement come at a very sensitive time?
I think you're absolutely right. And first of all, we have to give a lot of credit to the caretaker government. I think that when we raise this hue and cry about this, we are undermining a good work done by the caretaker government, by all the ministries, as some in particular did an excellent job, including Finance Ministry, Aviation Ministry, Foreign Ministry, etc. A lot of good work has been done, so it's unbecoming to just suggest that it's all nonsense. And actually, the new government will have a big task of continuing what the caretaker. I don't want too many fancy new ideas. We have to stick to this SBA, standard standby agreement.
And we have a new agreement that we have to also look forward to.
Correct. That's correct.
Speaking of those, we know that Pakistan averted default last summer with this short IMF bailout, the SBA, and of course then the continuity of the program that happened. But this program expires in April, and the IMF is all set to come to talk for talks on this new program and on the last tranche that has yet to be given as far as the SBA is concerned.
Correct.
In these days where it is, in my point of view, and I'm sure you agree with me as well, when all parties need to get together for a charter of democracy or a charter of economy, why not prioritize national, international environments and try to, why are you trying to stop any efforts in building a consensus on important issues? Why are you trying to stop economic stability in Pakistan? Why do that when you, at the end of the day, are also Pakistani as much as we are?
Absolutely, and you know what, we're all in this boat together, and we can always look at the analogy with the IMF as the a dealer or a baron that sells a drug, and that drug is credit. It sells credit to distressed towns, and imagine Pakistan is a town, and one person is writing a letter that, oh, don't give any more of this substance to my town. Well, you know what, the whole town suffers. And the fact is that we all have to work to make our town nicer, cleaner, safer, etc. And this is a common responsibility. So I agree with you, and I would also say that there are certain areas of our consciousness that should be kept outside the realm of politics. I believe economics should be one of those, that you should have a long-term vision that should be pursued no matter who is in power.
And there should be a continuity of policy. That is extremely important, like you mentioned as well, that the current government needs to also continue with the same policy that the caretaker government had. That includes the reforms. Speaking of reforms, how important is this whole reform process for stabilizing our economy?
It's extremely important. Now, because we negotiated with the IMF at a time of distress last year, therefore the conditionalities they put were harsh, and people like you and I suffered, and the people in lower classes beneath us suffered even more. So if you negotiate with the IMF from a position of strength, you'll obviously get a better deal. So we have to make sure that things are continued across governments, across society, so that every time there is a need for distress, we do so and we present a unified front, because the IMF is neither our friend nor our enemy. It is just a dealer, and people are out there to buy. That's the job.
Exactly, and on certain terms that we need to agree to as per their demands. During a press briefing that was held early on Friday, Julie Kozak, the head of the communications department of the IMF, said the following. She said that during the tenure of the interim government, the authorities had maintained economic stability. Then she says this has been done through strict adherence to fiscal targets while also protecting the social safety net. It has also been done by maintaining a tight monetary policy stance to control inflation and to continue to build up foreign exchange reserves. She added that we can look forward to working with the new government on policies to ensure macroeconomic stability and prosperity for all of Pakistan's citizens. How important is macroeconomic stability and prosperity for a country like Pakistan, and what needs to be done by Pakistan to ensure that, despite coming into a liaison with the IMF?
A fascinating question, because there's two parts. One is how important is it? The short answer is it's very important, but the thing is, how was it done? It was done through very tight monetary activity. So we have an extraordinary interest rate because our inflation is the highest in Asia, and the fiscal tightness as well. But at the same time, we have borrowed a lot in this government. So what we need to think about is, even if the IMF says good job, we also have the right and the sensibility to examine if we are on the right track. That's our appraisal ourselves, and I think we can always do better. And so right now, you cannot expect business to grow and things to improve without a lower interest rate at some point, especially as the energy prices are easing up. And between you and me, I think that the world economy is coming towards a recession in late 24. This is my personal view.
Okay. Will Pakistan be affected by it?
Pakistan may be positively affected, in fact. It's a plus and a minus. The minus is that exports won't be as hot, but at the same time, energy costs will be lower. And for the common man, exports are good, but lower inflation is a lot better. So I think that the cooling down of the global economy might be a big plus over the next 4 quarters. So there are good signs ahead too, making it easier for the government to make the reforms that it needs to.
All right. Speaking of good signs, bullish momentum was also witnessed at the PSX today. At the end of the day, the index was hovering at 62,815.81, which is an increase of 901 points, or 1.48%. Also, GTCL, PPLS and GPL were trading in the green. There's an improvement in the sentiment. There's investor confidence that we are seeing building because A, of the formation of the government, B, because of the positive statement that the IMF has given of working with the new government. How do you see this positive trend developing? But in spite of this positive trend developing, what are the challenges that you foresee for the new government to undertake?
Good question, and since you framed it in terms of the stock market, as you know, I used to work with equity markets extensively, so we should keep in mind that they are a reflection of sentiment, as you have correctly suggested. So this upswing in the markets is a good sign, and it reflects what people are thinking about the next quarter. So if there's something that were bad to happen, you would see this falling, right? But instead you're seeing it rising. So now it's suggesting, the implication is that the investor community believes, the domestic investor community believes that the government has an easier time that was sought before because stability is being achieved. So in that sense, the main challenge now I think is on the fiscal side, not the monetary side, because the state bank can now start to think about lowering interest rates. That's the beginning and end of it. But on the fiscal side now, I think our expenditures are far too large given the tax effort that is expected. And the IMF always wants the shortcut of squeezing the people wherever you have to, and that particularly includes the middle class and taxpayers. Instead, it has to be more on the expenditure side, and we really have to realize how much public value is being created when our government is so large relative to the value it contributes. So with that, I think expenditure is the big question out of all of the macroeconomic principles if you look a year ahead.
Finally, I'd like to understand, after the 18th Amendment, the provinces have their own autonomy, and the Federation is, of course, overseeing all of that, but does not have as much control on the provinces as it used to have before the 18th Amendment. How important is a cohesive approach for settling issues as far as fiscal discipline is concerned between the Federation and the provinces?
It's a very excellent question. It's the necessary question, because the 18th Amendment has not been fully realized, because the ambition of the 18th Amendment was to go down to local government level. But it was barricaded in the middle somewhere, and so you're neither here nor there. And as a result, it's the state, the Federation, that assumes all of these liabilities while passing down such a large award to the provinces. But the provincial level accountability and provincial level governments are, I think, the big gap. And if you ask me personally, I think that our provinces are now getting too large. I mean, one province is larger than Mexico, really. I mean, and then Mexico has 22 parts, right? So you have to think about how big these are and how bloated they are, and how much of the fiscal award stays in the capitals of these provinces rather than going to the entirety of the province. I would like a strong center with local development outside of the capitals of the provinces, and that will be better for Pakistan in the longer run. So these are big, heavy-duty reforms that need to take place.
All right. Thank you very much, Usman, Chohan, to have joined us on this very important issue, that is economic stability and how the government needs to move forward under the current challenges, political and otherwise. Let's come to our last three stories very, very quickly. First is on the ICJ hearing, where different countries have presented their point of view, whether it be Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Japan, and they are on the same consensus that they are favoring Palestine and an end to these hostilities by Israel. Now, the Minister for Law and Justice, Ahmad Irfan Aslam, also presented Pakistan's position at the ongoing advisory proceedings of the International Court of Justice, in this case on legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. This, of course, these proceedings stem from a December 2022 request by the United Nations General Assembly for an advisory option by the ICJ on the legal consequences of Israel's policies and practices in the occupied Palestinian territory. Next, ladies and gentlemen, is India and how Twitter or X has been requested or asked by India to block certain accounts. Now, X has said it has taken down certain accounts and posts following an order by the Indian government, and local media reports say that these are linked to the ongoing protests by the farmers. We all know that the farmers are protesting for their demands. They did before. After a couple of months, there were certain negotiations, there were certain promises made that were not committed till the end, and so the farmers are back on the street and they want to enter New Delhi. The government is trying to stop this one way or the other, and the blocking of these accounts on X might be one of those measures in that regard, so that people get to know less and less of what is the actuality according to that. But X says that these posts will only be blocked within Indian territories, not outside India. So whoever is outside India can, of course, read all that is happening as far as this farmers' protest is concerned. Last, the United States has achieved the first moon landing, ladies and gentlemen, in 50 years. A spacecraft that was built and flown by Texas-based company Intuitive Machines landed near the moon's south pole on Thursday. This was the first touchdown of a US vessel in around 50 years or 5 decades, since the first was achieved by the private. I mean, this also is the first achieved by the private sector. NASA, along with other, of course, companies, have hailed this as a major achievement in its goal of sending a squad of commercially flown aircrafts or spacecrafts on scientific scouting missions to the moon ahead of a planned return of astronauts there later this decade. We see so many science fiction films and TV series, and it's a whole new world out there, as a lot of them say. It's a whole world out there also on the moon and on other surfaces as well, and we will take decades, and I don't know how many decades, to finally decipher what that planet is actually, or even the moon, what is actually about, and what secrets it holds within. And these missions are just one of those missions that will try to decipher that question that all of us have in our minds. Is there other life out there? That and much more. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah on Monday, because it's the weekend. Have a wonderful weekend, and stay safe. Allah Hafiz.